said, be brave, my son, I'll be home soon. The boy held on to hope till he got that awful news. And as they folded up the stars and stripes, 21 guns pointed towards the sky. As the shots rang out, he flinched a little each time. Then a soldier in his best dress walked up to him, and you know the rest.
This show is brought to you by Operation Encore. Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping change the lives of our veteran community. Let me tell you a little bit about what they do. They are helping veterans get into the music industry. They're helping them learn the business, get songs recorded, and not only that, making dreams happen. You know, most of these veterans have got the idea of becoming a musician way before they went into the military. And Operation Encore is filling that gap from while they served in the military and helping them change their lives and live out those dreams. Operation Encore is a nonprofit. You can go to this link right there and click on it. Give them a little help. Hit that donate button. Follow them. Learn about all the great things that Operation Encore does for our veterans. Hey, welcome everybody to Spirits and Stories with Donald Dunn and my co-host, Brandon.
I look like Santa Claus.
All right. So tonight is kind of a special event. It's going to be our final episode, our final hoorah after 3 seasons. It's the weekend coming up for Hero Stock here in Rolla. And so I could not think of a better guest to have than Miss Jessica Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
This podcast.
Amazing lady, dude.
Yes, I have been stoked about this podcast forever. And if it wasn't for Brandon,
Don't you dare.
this would have probably never happened.
Don't you dare.
But
I ain't do nothing.
so her unit was actually my support battalion when I was at Fort Bliss. Way before she probably was even thinking about the military back in 96.
1780.
Yeah, 96. So I was in 2-6.
Yeah.
507th was our support battalion.
Nice.
And I'm kind of really excited to get in this. So let's bring on Miss Jessica Lynch. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So, I have to ask. I ask all my guests this. I know the answer because I read your book. My question is, what brought you to the military? What made you decide to sign that line and join the military?
Yeah, so funny story is that I never had plans of joining the military. Like, it wasn't on my radar. I had never even considered joining. Like, it just wasn't something that I had ever considered. Like, all through school, growing up, it was, I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. And honest to truth, like, I really wanted just to be a teacher. Like, so from the time I was 5 years old, sitting in my very own kindergarten classroom, that's what I kept telling everyone that I wanted to do. So when I turned 18, graduated high school, and was sitting at my family's home back in West Virginia, an Army recruiter pulled into the driveway. And at first we're like, oh crap, because, back then it was, our parents were kind of very strict on us about, don't invite anyone over while they're at work kind of situation. And when we saw that car, even though my brother was 19, he had just finished his first year of college. I had just graduated high school. My sister was 16. So, obviously we were very capable of being home alone. But yeah, it was one of those things that we were like, oh no, like you're going to be in trouble for having someone over. Like, and then to find out that it was an Army recruiter. So of course, my brother and I were instantly kind of jumping right into it. Like we were on board with everything that he was saying, because they feed that to you and make it sound so great. And it is, so, I don't want to take away from that, because, the opportunities, the, joining, all of that's amazing. But to an 18, 19-year-old, we were like, yeah, we get to travel. We get to, kind of be out on our own for real. Like, yeah, there was just no thinking to it. But it essentially came down to, again, my brother had just finished up college, or his first year, freshman year. I was getting ready to go into college, and then my sister would have been right behind us. So it was more of a decision for us to do it, to kind of take that financial, burden, to create that freedom for our family, so that, my parents wouldn't have to put us all through college at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't nothing that I had ever dreamed about. It was just one day, just sitting there, and an Army recruiter kind of walked into our family's home, and there we found ourselves in the Army now, as they say.
Yeah, I was not too far behind that. I got out of high school. I didn't have the grades for college, and I didn't have the dollars to pay for college. And I got married right out of high school. And so I came in because I needed that stabilization. I needed to grow up.
Yeah.
And the military is a great place for all of that.
I agree. It really is. And I tell everyone, because, I get asked that question all the time now, that, when I'm out doing these motivational speaking, or, now that I'm working with the Department of Veterans Assistance, I get asked all the time, what would you tell young people? Would you still tell them to go in, even though everything happened to you? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, just because what happened to me in my unit doesn't mean it's going to happen to you or you or you, or, like, absolutely. I mean, even if my daughter wanted to join, okay, it's her life. It's these kids' life. Sadly, as parents, we have to learn to let go. We've lived our lives, and now it's kind of, supporting them and making sure that, we are there to kind of just, show them that, yep, no matter what you put your mind to, you can do it. And if that's something that you're wanting to do, then do it. But yeah, I mean, it's always great to see these young kids say that they want to do it on their own. So yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, your brother was stationed at Campbell with the 160th, right?
Correct. Yeah. So he was, he did some time at Fort Bragg, and then he was stationed out at Campbell. Correct.
So we've got a lot in common. I did 10 years with the 160th at 3rd Battalion there in Savannah, Georgia. So I never met your brother, but I had heard that he was stationed there back at the regiment. I don't know if he was in 2nd Battalion or 1st Battalion, but he was back there at Campbell, which is where our regiment was. So yeah. I thought it was really kind of ironic, that your unit was my support battalion. Your brother got stationed in the same unit that I loved. I mean, the 160th is an amazing unit. So yeah. I think that's really awesome. So both of you guys came in together, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, well, we signed up on the same day together. But then he actually left for basic in August of 2001. And I continued on with the delayed entry until September. So I left for basic training September 19th. So a week after 9/11 had occurred.
Okay.
Now, Jessica, isn't there something that's kind of cool in West Virginia, the fact that you and your brother went in at the same time? I can't remember what it was, but
yeah. So, well, I don't know if it still holds true, but we were the first brother-sister duo to sign up on the same day at that recruiting station, or the MEP station, sorry, obviously it was a recruiting station, but I mean, same MEPS. So yeah, it was kind of neat that we became the first kind of brother sister to sign up together on that same day at the same time.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Bud.
Yeah, man. See, he's the man with all the knowledge.
I don't know anything.
But yeah, so what basic training did you go to? Was it Jackson or
Jackson?
Yep.
Yeah. I was
That's where I
was
went.
quartermaster, so I went through Jackson and then Lee.
Okay, yep. I was a wheel mechanic, so I went to Jackson for basic and AIT. So yep.
And that leads me to this question, Don.
Uh-huh.
Are you sure you read her book? Because it says it in her book where she went to.
I did.
Did you?
I did. But not all the guests have read the book.
True.
Which they should. They should read.
I'm trying to set you up, and you're doing wonderful. I'm just gonna sit back here and shut up.
So let me ask you this, right? So you go to basic training, you then go to AIT. Was the 507th your first duty station?
Correct. Yeah. So I got to Fort Bliss February of 2002. So yeah, I was stationed there. I'm going to, well, no, it would have been almost exactly a year because we got deployed to Kuwait in February of 2003. So it would have been almost, pretty close to 1 year mark when we took off and finally deployed.
Now, I don't know about when you was there. When I was there, the morale in the 507 really was not that good. The unit there was just kind of known for being harsh leaders. Was that still the same? Because a lot of changes came from Fort Bliss. So when I was there, it was all patriot. But I believe it was
obviously, yeah. Yes and no. I should say that. And I will never. I will never put anybody down or anything of that nature because again, I was very proud and honored to have served at all. But yeah, sadly we had we had some leadership issues. Let's just put it that way. So yes and no to answer your question.
Fair answer.
Yep, absolutely. And look, I get it. You spend your whole Army career saying this is not the Army. Wait till you get your next unit. That'll be the Army, right? And so on. But the truth is the people make the unit. The unit doesn't make the people, right? So you're going to have those units. And I seen it. When I was at Fort Bliss, I got a taste of exactly what not to be as a leader. I was actually, the only reason why I re-enlisted was to get out of Fort Bliss because they started this program where you could re-enlist 18 months out to get you to re-enlist. And it was quicker to re-enlist to leave than it was to stay there and get out. My plans was to get out of the military. And I'm glad I didn't. So I ended up going to Germany where I found different people, different leadership styles. I got some older NCOs that had got more experience with leadership. And so absolutely, I completely get it that, at ADA, my experience, the majority of the NCOs were young. They made rank fairly quick. And so with that, you do get some young leadership problems. So I was just curious if it was the same, still kind of the same sentiment, Was it Patriot units when you was there, or had they already started transferring over to mostly Cav Scouts, I think, that ended up coming to Bliss?
Don't look at me. I'm in the Marines.
Yeah, I know.
No. I'm going to say no. I'm like, wait, no. No, see what to kind of go back to your other, yes, we had a lot of young NCOs. Mm-hmm. But I think it was just more of the inexperience because we were also young. Mm-hmm. When we deployed, most of my unit had never seen a deployment before. So when we deployed, that was for the majority of the unit. that was our very first time of even going anywhere. But kind of the same thing, like when you were talking about the re-upping, I went into basic September of 01, like I said. By October of 2002, I was able to re-enlist. So I went ahead and re-upped, and I told them that I would do it again, and I would probably done it anyway, but kind of playing that like card game with them of like,
Yep.
hey, I will re-up, but I want Hawaii. And I was just throwing, the wildest thing out there, thinking that I would never get it. Like, what would be the odds that they would need a supply clerk in Hawaii at the time that I would be ready to leave? And
Yeah.
sure enough, they were like, done. You got orders. Congratulations. And on that spot, I re-enlisted and took the orders to Hawaii. Never in my wildest dreams, like that was something that I was like, I just wanted to make it to Hawaii just so I could see the country. Like I just wanted to travel now that I was in the military, because everyone said, use that, make sure you get your educational benefits, make sure that you travel, and of course, make as many friends as you can along the way. But I was like, done. Like, where's the one place that is far enough from West Virginia that I would have probably never have gotten to see on my own? And again, I just threw Hawaii out there thinking that I was never going to get it. And boom.
So Hawaii and Germany were my choices. That's what came down when I asked. And I told my wife, I said, we could probably sooner go to Hawaii than we could Germany. So let's go to Germany for the same reasons. Let's see the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys train up, you do the normal pre-deployment routines, and you guys land in Kuwait. Now I know, because I was over in that area during that same time frame. I know there was a long delay before anybody actually moved out of Kuwait. It's like everybody was getting anxious. There's a lot of things that happened, good and bad, before the war even kicked off. And I know in your book you talked about one of those things that a lot of people didn't realize made decisions for later in that war that happened. Referring to the individual that threw the grenade in the talk for his chain of command, because he wanted out of the military. I believe that's the reason why, was because he wanted out of the military. What was it like over there during that time frame? While everybody was getting ready to go, and we were on that hurry up and wait status.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Before we get into all the heaviness, let's talk about Lori.
Oh,
let's get her name out there.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would have talked about, I talk about all of them, but especially Lori, because obviously she was who I was closest to.
Yeah.
So I met Lori when I first went to Fort Bliss. So in February 2002. And instantly they told me, hey, you're not going to like your new roommate. And I was like, oh, that's scary. Like, what do you mean I'm not going to like her? And they were like, no, I think she's mean, she's gruff, she's the complete opposite of you, the little white girl. And I was like, oh, what? So instantly I kind of walked into the room and I was like, I didn't know what to expect. And I walked in and there's my roommate, and she's half, or so she grew up half Hopi Indian and then half Mexican. So I walked in and I'm like, oh crap. Because she just put this persona on, like she was just going to literally like choke me. And I was like, hi. It was the greatest kind of start off of meeting somebody ever. but it was weird because as soon as that happened, I mean, we just didn't leave each other's side. Like it was a weird connection. Because crazy enough, I was able to kind of teach her things from like West Virginia culture
Yeah.
versus, her growing up in outside of Phoenix. So it's Flagstaff, Arizona. So I'm like, oh, I've never even been to Arizona, let alone kind of met someone from there. But I mean, no, she had the greatest personality once I had actually kind of like broke that barrier with her of like, I promise I'm not just the little white school girl that that she was thinking that I was going to walk into being. But it was a really good friendship instantly. I mean, I made that connection with her two children. At the time that I met them, they were 3 and 4. So she had a little girl and a son. And I just absolutely fell in love with them. And I was like, do they really have to go back to Arizona? Because her parents were watching them while she was serving. And of course, they brought the kids down all the time, and we were able to see them and play with them and take them out and just do things with them. But Lori was 23 when she passed, and I was 19. So she really had that, I want to say almost like a motherly figure over me, that she was constantly kind of watching me. Like, like, when we would go out on the weekends, like she'd be like, Rumi, don't be, stop, don't think, like
Yeah.
the whole thing. But I mean, again, we had just such a close relationship that it was awesome. But she was one of those people that I am so thankful that I got to meet along my journey, because as they say, you always will meet that one person that you will never forget during your time of service. And for me, even though my time in service was extremely short, she was that person for me that I will, never forget. Again, we spent every single day together. She was in supply as well. So we just spent a lot of time together, on duty and off. So it was great. It was a good friendship that thankfully I have continued with her now growing children, who have both finished college. I mean, just they're amazing,
Awesome.
amazing individuals. Lori would definitely be proud of them.
Well, I never met her, but I do know, it seems like from the pieces that I've kind of followed over the years, she came in the military kind of with that protector kind of persona, because she had a goal. She wanted a house for her family and her kids. So I'm referring to her parents and the whole family. And that was her goal from being in the military, was to get one. And I'll get into what happens with that later. But I just kind of wanted to say it makes sense why she would take that role on. She was already doing it for her family. And
Yeah.
she probably came from an environment where you had to have a protector. Somebody had to play that role.
Yeah. And I mean, her family was very kind of close knit, in the same kind of sense that mine was too. I mean, like I used to tell my family, like, quit being the Brady Bunch. Like, can we just not like go to the store together? Can we all do separate things for once? Like, do we really have to follow each other? But that's how her family was. I mean, very, very close knit. They were, just a great, great group that they stuck together through everything. So, again, just having that opportunity over these past 21 years to kind of not step in and fill Lori's shoes, because I would never do that,
Right.
but to be able to step in and say, you know what, I have had that wonderful opportunity to watch the kids grow. Her dad, her father, passed away a couple years ago. So, again, it was just kind of nice to be able to be the one that was there for her family and was like, all right, listen, I know that you have a ton of support throughout the world, but if you ever need anything, right here in West Virginia is going to be your girl.
Yep. Well, and again, it's one thing for outside support. There's a difference between what you're offering because you guys shared a bond that was Lori. I mean, that was what brought you guys together. And so that support means a lot more because you guys can share those memories and relate to each other versus, what the communities do, which is great still too. But I completely understand that, and the fact that you get to see her kids grow and I'm sure they've got pieces of their mom that you recognize and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what she would have said,
Yeah, exactly. Especially her daughter. Like there's times that I look at Carla and I'm like, holy crap. Like, because, sadly, Carla is almost the age that, Lori was. So, kind of watching her now and I'm like, oh, like that's a split in image of her mother. And she didn't even, sadly, Carla grew up without a mother. Essentially, to only be 4 and to have your mom taken away from you at such a young age, she doesn't remember it. So, she, and again, she's done absolutely wonderful. She's an amazing, amazing young woman now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know in your book, if I'm not mistaken, Lori did not have to deploy. She volunteered to go with you, right?
Yeah. So essentially, she had surgery on her shoulder. Sorry. So she had surgery shoulder. Say that one 6 times fast.
I don't
know why I'm struggling getting that one out. Shoulder surgery. So she had that done. So she was still in the kind of healing phases. Yeah, and they gave her the kind of the option, to stay in the rear, kind of, finish healing, get better. And she was like, absolutely not, because if Rumi's going, I'm going. And of course, everyone did. We kind of tried to talk her out of like, no, we'll be fine. Don't. But she was not having it. She wanted to be right there with the rest of her unit, which, now looking back, I probably would have done the exact same thing. I don't know that I could have been the one been like, I'll stay in the rear. I'll see you guys when you get back. Like, so. I definitely see her point of wanting to be there with the unit. And it was definitely something that when you first deploy, you don't think about the dangers. And I know that sounds crazy, but both of you understand what I'm trying to say is like, you're with your unit. You feel like you're kind of protected. You're with your friends that have your back. So we didn't really, we didn't really think that anything that bad would happen to our unit that quickly. Like, obviously, we knew that we were going to see combat. We were getting deployed. That's that would be crazy for us to think that if we literally wouldn't have seen anything. So we did think that, but it was more of, I don't know, you're with your friends. They become your family at this point because, you're with them every single day. You're spending all this time with them and you're like, okay, all right, we got each other's back. Nothing's going to happen. And, especially for my unit 3 days into the war, like, that it was just one of those things that I don't think anyone really kind of expected that soon.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It's your show. So And with that peace that you felt prior to, I mean, was that also, did you a feeling of peace because technically you were rear echelon and you weren't thinking like, I'm not going to be kicking doors, I'm not going to have to worry about anything? Well,
Yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit. I mean, but we knew that we were also one of the first ones to be getting deployed, because, you know, like you were saying, it yes, we left in February of 2002 before, before President Bush had even declared war.
Right.
So we knew that we were going to be one of the first ones to kind of go over. We just obviously, like I said, I mean, none of us expected that. So as sad as it is, I mean, we knew that we did have, like I said, we did have some leadership kind of issues that probably definitely did not help us in any case. But again, it was, I don't know. I mean, we just felt that kind of peace, that protection of like, again, we're all together.
I think the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, right, is combat is made up of multiple layers, right? So when you first get on ground, you first get to Kuwait, everybody's drinking from a fire hose. I mean, information's just coming and you're trying to absorb as much of it as you can, but there's a lot of stuff that you got to think about. What kind of equipment do I need? What is the terrain going to be like? Are my vehicles going to make it? And then you got the command level decisions of, where am I going? What's my mission? And so all of this stuff is trickling down.
Yes.
And so you don't have time to think about the dangers, because every time you sit down and you start to chill out, somebody walks through that tent door and says, hey, we need 3 guys to get up and go do this, or we need, because there's a lot of stuff to get ready for.
Yeah, I mean, and again, yeah, and the same. We were over there again, about a month before anything happened. So we were still waiting for all of our equipment. We still hadn't received all of our vehicles. So we were still, like you said, we were still in that kind of waiting phase of like, all right, when's everything going to arrive? Is everything going to arrive? What's happening? So yeah, I mean, it was very chaotic in those first few weeks, especially because again, you're kind of not only preparing yourself mentally for what is about to come, but just the physical aspects of it. We didn't realize that it was going to be so hard to leave El Paso running to try to run in Kuwait, and it hit you completely different. And you're like, why am I so out of breath? Like, it's flat land. I shouldn't be having this much problem breathing. But, when you're running in sand, it takes a lot more effort and exertion on your body to do that kind of thing. So, definitely people in the military, no matter where you're stationed, you're going to understand that different levels of breathing. So it's a lot of physical kind of preparation. You're mentally preparing yourself. But then also on top of all of that, while we were still kind of in that waiting phase, is when we were told that our first sergeant and our commander, so our commander did not deploy with us, our actual unit commander. He did not deploy. And we were, put with another commander. So thankfully we knew him. He was our first lieutenant. So he was already kind of in the unit. I mean, we knew him like lieutenant, like we at least kind of, had a little bit of his background and knew about him. Whereas our first sergeant, we had just met him in Kuwait. Like, didn't really know anything about him, didn't know his family, and that's hard. That's hard. It had to have been hard on him because he didn't know any of us. And then to walk in for us to not know anything about him, it was just kind of unexpected. But again, we kind of knew that, again, with the leadership issues that we were having, that was going to happen.
Yeah, it is tough. You know, a unit that trains together fights together, and when
Yeah.
you break that up, that cycle,
Mhm.
and somebody that did not, especially the first sergeant, the commander's not so intricate in knowing Private Snuffy's good at this one task. He's seeing the bigger picture. But that first sergeant is hands-on, boots ground. He's interacting with the soldiers, the platoon sergeants, and that training with them is crucial.
Yeah.
It's his job to identify the unit's weak spots to advise the commander. And if not having that, man, he was literally set up for failure from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think he would have done quite well,
Yeah.
honestly, because he seemed to know what he was doing. He seemed to kind of have his act together, as they say.
Yep.
So I think had things not went down the way that they did, that he would have done exceptionally well there. Just
Mhm.
unfortunately, I think he was, like you said, he was at a disadvantage from the very beginning. And it was just, I don't know. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard not knowing him. Like you said, I'm sure it was hard on him not knowing us. And then, essentially, there we are in his hands,
Yep.
and he did. I mean, he ran with it. He did a good job up until the point where it kind of just everything kind of fell apart for us.
Yeah, and I do want to say something for the audience as we're getting into this, right? Um, Soldiers have to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
Field manuals only go so far.
Yeah.
In the spare of the moment, people have to make decisions. And I truly do believe this. The only wrong decision is not making a decision.
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody to hold any judgments about the stuff that we talk about. You have to understand, like you said, they were young soldiers, young leaders. They
Yeah.
didn't have the combat experience. I was with Fort Stewart that did exceptionally well through Iraq because they went to Iraq over and over and over and over. Right before I retired, they said, "Hey, you're going to go to Afghanistan." Guess what? They didn't do very well. They had a lot of problems, and it was because that was completely different,
Yeah.
and it was new to them. So I
Well,
don't
and I
want
think
anybody to
that's
think that.
I think that's with anything. I mean, you switch anything up on anybody and you're like,
Yep.
whoa, wait a minute. Like, what's going on here? So yeah, I mean, again, I don't think he was, I gotta put some light on me. It got a little dark in here. Sorry. I don't know if that's a little bit better. I might have to sorry about that. I was
You're
like,
good.
oh my gosh, it's getting so dark here because of course I'm on the East Coast where it's already almost 9 o'clock and we're getting ready to have a storm. So of course it's a little bit darker than usual.
Ah,
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think unfortunately just the cards weren't there for us that
yeah.
day. And tensions were high. I mean, everything about it as you were crossing that border, it's tough. It's tough.
It
It,
is.
it was tough for us. I mean, and then of course, like I said, for the majority of us, I'm going to even say, I'm going to go as high as maybe 90% of us that day had never been deployed. We were, for
Yeah.
the most part, all of us, not all of us, obviously, because there were some older ones, but for the most part, most of us were only 18, 19, 20, 21 years old.
Yep.
So very young. This was, again, most of our first time kind of out in the world.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, sadly, we just weren't prepared for it.
Yep.
Could the training have been a lot better before we left? Absolutely. Could, you know, I don't know, maybe things would have been different had we went into war with our actual unit instead of making changes. I don't know. I mean, yeah, and we could play that what if game.
Yep.
Coulda, woulda. I don't know.
So
I mean,
there's a
unfortunately.
lot of TTPs that we learn, but we learn those as the war advances. So
Yeah.
we adjust, and returning units train that next unit on hey, these were the TTPs we had to adjust to.
Yeah.
And you guys didn't have that. Nobody had gone over yet. The last person that crossed that border was from the Gulf War. So there was no, you guys invented the TTPs. Everybody that first crossed was the example of what we had to adjust to.
Yeah.
You didn't have anybody to show you that. So
No,
it is hard.
it was. I mean, and obviously, and I'm not even going to lie. I mean, so kind of the morale was up
Mhm.
during Kuwait, because
Yep.
again, we were in that initial like waiting phase. But we also felt like Kuwait was our safe haven. Like as long as we were on this side and we
Yeah.
didn't leave, the camps, like, so we just felt like, okay, you know what I mean? Like we can get our bearings together, we can get our shit together before kind of we cross, because once you cross, no one knew what to expect. I mean, obviously we were told, oh, we're going to wear mop gear, full mop gear crossing the border, because we don't know what we'll expect
Yeah.
once we get over into Iraq. So, I mean, everything about those first, initial first few days of being in country, but even those first few hours were extremely, extremely kind of scary and nerve-wracking. And I don't care who you are or what what
Yeah.
rank you were in or what unit, like it was just kind of an uneasy time for everyone because of the stories like, oh, once you cross the border, they're going to gas us, they're going to do this, they're going to, I mean, the stories were endless of, possibilities of what they could do. And of course you had to take all of those very seriously. But it was definitely, I don't know, it was just an uneasy first, especially first few hours of crossing over into the border.
Yeah. Michael Simone's asking, who was it you crossed with?
So we were with an entire, like everyone that was from our base camp, like we crossed with them. So, I mean, there was, I heard at one time there were 500,000, but I don't know that that's true. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
really know the exact number. I just know that we were kind of not to the end of it, but we were kind of, closer to the end, and you could just see vehicles for miles upon miles of so I'm not sure exactly who all was a part of the initial crossing.
Yeah. So I know that situation we talked about earlier affected a lot of the tactics. Did that particular situation where with the gentleman that threw the grenade in the talk, did that affect decisions made by the leaders that was getting ready to cross at that time?
I don't know. I'm sure it probably did, but I don't know about that. I'm sure that everything that was coming across their path probably gave them a little bit of an edge to kind of like, oh, you got to watch what we are doing with
Yeah.
this, and this. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that anything again, any stories, any, live events that were occurring, probably every single bit of that was on their minds of like,
Yeah.
this could be a potential, scary moment for us. And it was for us, because basically when we had crossed that first day, again, it was just follow the vehicle in front of you. Obviously don't follow too closely, but don't trail too far behind.
Yep.
You guys understand? Like, so it was just kind of follow the person in front of you. And then once we kind of all made it to Baghdad, then we were going to kind of split off and go our separate ways and figure out where we were going. So it was, I don't know, that first day, again, after the first few hours, then things kind of started to relax a little.
Yep.
Whereas you weren't so much on your seat. So it was a little bit like you're like, okay. And then, but by the second day that we were there, my unit sadly we just started falling behind. Like we just could not keep up with the vehicles in front of us. And then that's kind of when the commander and first sergeant, they made that decision of like, hey, we need to let half of our vehicles continue on. Well, technically it was about 2/3. They pushed forward and told them to keep up with the rest of the convoy. And then the last third of us. So in that group, there were 33 of us and 17 vehicles. So with us, we just couldn't keep up. I mean, we were constantly, I don't even know. I mean, because we were getting off track. And then, of course, that meant we were out there with our hands and shovels and digging ourselves out of these sand pits because we were not following where we were supposed to. So it was just kind of at that moment when we were like, oh, like it got real. Like it was real when we crossed the border, but now it's like real. To the point where eventually we were left. We were left behind.
And now, this was on Route Blue, right?
Yes, I believe that's what it was called.
Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, you.
No. Okay. So yeah. So the each vehicle, not each vehicle. I won't say that because not each vehicle had it, but the majority of our vehicles had radio communication or GPS signals, and the ones that didn't, well, then the passenger would have a paper map. So once we got so far behind, we lost GPS signal as well as radio communication. So we had absolutely no way of even getting a hold of the rest of the unit.
Yeah.
And then to find out, and I think, I don't know if we put that in the book, but it may have been in the book, but we essentially found out that my unit ended up being 19 hours behind the rest of the convoy. I mean, if you think about that, I mean, you're basically, I mean, I don't know right off the top of my head, but I mean, that's East Coast to,
Midwest.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I mean,
Yep. Absolutely.
And I do want to say for your viewers that our military, this was before Blue Force trackers.
Yes.
That we did not have Blue Force trackers. I know on my convoy on the Marine Corps side, because we were sort of mirroring you guys coming in. We were in the same, like maybe we had a short radio that we could use, but when the batteries die, you got nothing. No up armored anything.
Yeah.
So when Jessica's talking about out there exposed, it was canvas sides, I don't know about your 5-ton. It probably had the steel doors, but still.
Yes, the 5 tons did. Yeah, but so at that time I was in the Humvee though when we actually ended up kind of getting lost. So yeah, and they were all canvas, so we did not have any kind of real protection. Again, the larger vehicles, they did the 5 tons. But yeah, I mean, either way, I don't I don't care. Like, it was
Right.
still very scary to know that there was only, 33 of us and 17 vehicles in the wide open of the desert. So we had nothing to kind of protect each other. I mean, it was just us being out there, not knowing where we were at, where we were going. Nothing. Like, it was just all hope and pray that we ended up where we needed to be. And eventually we did. On the morning of March 23rd, we saw lights up ahead of us, and we thought that was the rest of the convoy, so we headed toward it. And it ended up being the city of Nasiriyah, because this was very early in the morning. And again, we just saw those lights up ahead of us, and we were like, well, let's go. Let's find out if that's the rest of the convoy up there kind of waiting for us, not knowing that they were halfway they were already gone by that point. And yes, we crossed over into a Nasiriyah that early morning. And, at first we thought that we were going to kind of get in, do a little UE, get back out, or at least that was our hopes, because once we figured out that, we were in the wrong part of town. Like, we knew that we were not supposed to be there once they figured out where we were at, that, all right, we needed to turn around. We needed to get ourselves back out of there at that point. And by time, we got all these vehicles turned around and headed back out. And we didn't even get all of our vehicles technically turned around and heading out before they started to attack us. So, that first dreaded gunshot that we definitely did not want to hear eventually turned into just a full-fledged, very quick ambush attack on us. And, again, 33 against this entire city, we were just completely outnumbered. Very, very outnumbered.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're talking about trucks that are pulling other vehicles. We're not talking about your little Toyota that's trying to do a U-turn. If I'm not mistaken, you guys also, the fighting lasted so long that vehicles were running out of fuel and everything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did have some that ran out of fuel. But for the most part, I mean, it kind of happened very quickly, to say the least. I mean, it felt like forever and a day for us, because, when you're in that kind of position and you got nothing. And that was the other thing that a lot of people didn't realize, is that, so in my vehicle, and again, I'm in the Humvee at this point. I am in the back seat of Lori's driving, my first sergeant's the passenger. And then we picked up 2 other soldiers from a different unit that kind of attached with us. So I was the smallest, and again, we needed everybody in there. We needed to go. But I ended up kind of sitting on top of the transmission hump, out of all places. Again, just I don't know. You just don't think about it. Like, just let's go and let's get out of there. But yeah, it was a lot of things that were happening. We had vehicles that did not get turned around in time. We had some that ended up shooting down wrong roads, again, just to try to get out of harm's way. And, I mean, and you won't really think in that kind of situation. it's go, go, go. It's do what you can to kind of make yourself unnoticeable at that time. But again, so there were 5 of us in that Humvee, and in that Humvee we had 2 working weapons. And that was kind of the story for the entire small unit that was with us. But again, and we got ridiculed a lot for that, of, why wasn't your weapons working? And we knew it, and we owned up to it. I mean, there was nothing that, we tried to hide. Like, we knew that was one of our issues, was we did not have our weapons cleaned. But to us, and again, this is, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like an excuse. I mean, but it was true. I mean, we focused so much on trying to find our way, and less about stopping for 5 minutes to eat or nap, or, clean our weapons, or use the restroom. I know that, and those are things that people are like, well, if I would have, it's easy to say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you are so focused on trying to just find the rest of your unit, to find where you need to be, that it was not, I don't know. I mean, we knew it. I mean, again, we knew what we did wrong. To this day, I don't think there's any one of us that's like, nope, that didn't. Yeah, it did happen. Yes, we did not take care of our weapons the way that we should have. Again, we were all very, very drained. We were tired. We were completely, fatigued. I mean, we were just to the point of our breaking point, where we just did not sleep. Like I said, we barely stopped to kind of, take that kind of breathing moments of getting
Like you
ourselves.
said, there was only 33 of y'all. And, I don't know too many people that go out on a mission and say, while I'm out here, let me clean my weapon. You guys hadn't had a place to stop that was secure. There's less than a platoon worth of people.
Yeah.
You needed every weapon ready at every second that you had.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, we should have made time. We should have done what we had to do to make sure that, because again, that's kind of your weapons are your weapons are your best friends.
There's an old saying that if you're staring at the snake's tail to see where it's going, you're forgetting about the head.
Yeah.
And it was very, very easy.
Yeah.
Like, I was in the Marine Corps. Like, clean your weapon, blah, blah, blah. There were times where I did not have time to clean my weapon.
Yeah.
And it's not a fault of Jessica Lynch. It's not. I get so mad. I get so mad.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but at the same time, like, I fully owned up to it. Like,
Right.
I definitely was one of the ones that clearly we did not stop, and we did not clean our weapons. And again, I'm not dogging anyone, but I mean, my first sergeant had an M9 and an M16 on him, and both of his also jammed. But again, it was, we were not on the path that we should have been. There were a lot more sand that was being kicked up in those vehicles. So of course, like, they were getting clogged. I mean, and even had we, and again, this is just hypothetically, but had we stopped, even an hour before we got into a Nasiriyah, they probably would have been clogged again by the time we got there. So again, I mean, we can go through that whole coulda, woulda, shoulda game, but we knew that we failed on that part. And that was nothing that, again, I mean, we knew it, we owned up to it. I mean, it is what it is. Yes, it probably would have, again, here's our woulda, coulda, shoulda. It could have, maybe would have saved a few more lives had we done that. But it sadly is what it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, and we can't go back. We can't change it. There's,
and I honestly don't think it would have made that much of a difference with the way that you were outnumbered.
Yeah.
I mean,
you and they all had the high advantage.
Yep. And they had the high ground. And
they did. I mean, and they had, RPGs.
Yep.
They had the AK-47s, where we did not. I think we had a couple, maybe 249s with us.
Yeah.
And that would have been the extent of our big machinery.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I would love to sit here and say that, God, you know what I mean? Like, if we would have done that, that would have, prevented, so many tragedies, but also, less injuries, because, not only did we lose 11, but we had the majority of us going out of there with Purple Hearts. And, again, and that's with anyone that walks into a firefight, and that's part of war. I knew that joining, I knew that, that could be a possibility. Did I ever think in my wildest dreams that Jessica Lynch, would end up being a POW? Absolutely not. But I knew that, yeah, there could be a possibility that I could be injured if I were to ever see war. And again, I signed up in July of 2001 when it was peacetime. There was nothing happening. There was nothing going on. Did I think that I would, be able to serve my 20 years and never see war? Absolutely not. Like that's just reasonable thinking at that point. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, we can sit here and we can do the whole coulda, shoulda, woulda and put the blame on everything. And I know we'll kind of get into it a little bit, a little bit further afterwards, but, coming home and getting all the blame put on me was by far one of the hardest things that I have ever had to handle.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's going in and seeing war, the firsthand war, and coming home and just getting bashed and hated. And even though, I had so much, support and praises and well wishes, there were a lot of hate of Jessica Lynch caused her unit to get lost. Jessica Lynch, and, because my name was one of the more recognizable names that came out of it. So everything that occurred had my name associated to it. And I was like, well, I mean, and again, I don't care. Like I'm in the very beginning, I did, like it weighed very, very heavily on me. Like, because I was 19 years old when that happened. I got out of Walter Reed at 20. And it was hard to handle on top of everything that I had just been through.
Yeah.
And then to have everybody, to kind of be like, well,
it's like, just imagine going through what you went through and coming home and turning into a conspiracy theory. Like, that's basically what happened. You went to serve your country, and then through whatever, we're not going to get into that, but you come home, and because I'll get so mad, But you turn into your own conspiracy theory while you're at Walter Reed or in Germany, and then Walter Reed trying to fight for your life.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, and I'm going to shut up.
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to you got put in the middle of politics. You know, the military press tried to make you out to be a hero and all this other stuff, and then the stories are getting turned, and they created the response that the public got back. And I want to add, it came from a lot of people that never went through these kind of happen decisions to make, which is one of the things that fire me up, that you're going to judge other people.
Told you you'd get
that
fired up.
that was over there, that was forced to make decisions in seconds with no previous experience. There's nobody back here judging that can do that.
Nope.
Nobody.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, I knew essentially I didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah.
While I was in Germany or in Walter Reed, because they had kept, me away from kind of all the press. Like I knew what was kind of occurring, but I was being kept away from it. I mean, I didn't even know what a big deal that it was to have been the first POW rescued. Like I didn't understand that. To the point that I actually even asked my parents, like, do my friends back home know that I was missing and that I'm okay and that I'm rescued? And my mom was like, yeah, it's everywhere. But I mean, that's how far like I had been removed.
Yeah.
That I didn't even know what was occurring on the outside world. Like I knew, you know what I mean? Like I knew, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know the extent of it.
Yeah.
I knew that it kind of was a big deal, as they say, but I mean, it wasn't, to me, it didn't hit me until like I was actually out of the military and got home. And then of course, once that homecoming started, and then it was like, boom, like it was reporters and book deal and like just everything at once. And I'm like, I didn't even know, like I really didn't like comprehend it, I guess.
There was a part of your book that just sent chills down my throat, and your response when you were rescued, when the operator came through the door, and your response was, "I am a soldier too." And
so
man, that sent chills down my back.
Well, and see, I didn't realize that was even, I didn't even realize that was something big to even say. Like I just was trying to respond to them because they walked in and was like, "We're Americans, we're here to take you home." And I was like, yeah, I'm an American soldier too. And to me, like that didn't even, I didn't even, now looking back, I always say, I'm like, oh, that was such a corny thing to say because, of course they knew that I was a soldier, but, again, as a 19-year-old laying there essentially by myself for those 9 days. And that was the other thing that so there were, during the ambush, so we'll kind of back up a little bit because I know we kind of skipped a lot, but so during the ambush, and then after it kind of concluded, they came around, the Iraqis. They came around and did the checks inside of the vehicles to see who was KIA, who was still alive, and at that point is when they noticed that the 3 men that were inside of the vehicle with me were all shot and killed. And Lori, who had hit her head off of the steering wheel, and was suffering kind of a brain trauma. So they ended up taking Lori and I to a nearby palace of Saddam's. So they took us in there. That's kind of where they stripped us of all of our military gear, kind of, being females, so then they ended up actually breaking my humerus. There we go. Sorry. Brain fart for a minute. Humerus. So they ended up snapping and breaking my humerus and then taking a metal pipe object and busting my lower leg with that. So we are unsure exactly of the timeline of what had happened, but we do know that my back was broken at the 4th and 5th lumbar. So we're not sure if that was caused by them during the ambush. So there's really no kind of timeline of what happened there. But just with the arm, we were able to, well, I say we, like I was one of the surgeons there. And once I got to Germany, they were able to go in, the surgeons were, and they were kind of, by the looks of the x-rays and stuff, they could tell that the bone had been snapped. So that's why I say that. And then with the lower leg, they could see like the indents of where they smashed it with a heavier pipe object. So like I said, my back was already broke. So they ended up taking me, sorry about that. My light just went off. So yeah, they ended up taking me, once I left the palace, they ended up taking me to the hospital there in Nasiriyah. And then at that point, they had said that I had been knocked unconscious for approximately about 2 to 3 hours. Again, not really sure, but kind of a guesstimate. So once I woke up, that's when I realized that something was wrong. And I just had absolutely no idea of where I was at, what was occurring, nothing of that nature of anything. I just knew that I was alone and could not find or locate any of my comrades. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was definitely one of those situations where I knew that something had occurred, but since I was knocked unconscious, I could not remember anything. And I think, the trauma of it all, you're scared, you're frightened, you go through all those emotions, and I don't care who you are, you're going to be in that kind of scared motion of waking up and finding yourself, half naked on a bed, surrounded by these Iraqi men who are staring down at you. And so the first thing that, I tried to do was to jump, to jerk, to get away from them. And so essentially that's when I figured out that, like I can't move. I can't feel anything from my waist down. Like I'm in some serious trouble here, because now I know that I'm not going to be able to escape if I have to. I know that I can't run. I know that I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I just knew all of these scenarios now of like, and I'm all alone. I can't find anybody from my unit, a familiar face. I can't, there's just no voices. Like, I was listening, from down the hallway. Like, can I hear anybody that would have been in my unit that, their sounds, their voices, their coughing, their anything of any kind of familiarity to see, just anything. And there was nothing, like just nothing. And of course, once I realized that my back had been broken, and now that I'm all alone, things, things got very serious very quickly for me, waking
Yeah.
up and instantly coming to the realization that, oh, like I'm in the hands of our enemy. Like I don't think at that time I really thought, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm a POW. I just thought, like, oh, I'm in the wrong place, wrong time,
Yeah.
just
Did
where
you?
am I?
I've never asked you this question. I don't know why, but did you realize what kind of hornet's nest you were in with the Fedayeen all the way down in the basement? I mean, that was
No. Yeah, no. And that's what, like, honestly, I didn't realize the extent of anything, like anything. And that means from the time that, I was captured to the time that, again, even with the rescue, it was so chaotic of things happening around me that I did not even realize like what was occurring. And then of course, once I got to Germany, I was basically sedated the whole time, just trying to go through all the surgeries of, the back, the arm, the legs, the the whole
Right.
9 yards, the foot. I mean, so, and then if, even with Walter Reed, I was kept away from everything that I just thought, like, that's what they do. Like they must just be keeping me away from people because of, I don't know. I mean, you're just not thinking clearly
Right.
like you initially would. But I remember, waking up and kind of coming to that realization that I can't move, I can't do anything, can't communicate with them because, they're speaking Arabic. I'm
Yeah.
right.
country and I don't know what they're trying to tell me. So it was just hard to kind of, come awake out of that period of unconsciousness to then being like, oh, like I can't fall back to sleep. I can't, I got to make sure that I stay awake because I don't know what's going to happen. But I remember them one day taking me down to the operating room, and basically my only instructions was to count, because there was one Iraqi that was kind of over me. And he could speak what I called broken English. So like he could just certain phrases, like, so I could understand bits and pieces of what he was trying to say. And then he could kind of catch, a little bit of what I was saying as well. And I remember him telling me that I needed to put the oxygen mask over my face, and I needed to count. And I'm thinking, what, like, I don't even know what's occurring. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm even there. Because again, with the back being broke, I couldn't feel anything. Like, my body had basically shut down at that point. The nerve damage kind of, like, I just could not feel anything. So I didn't even know, if my legs were even still attached, what was the issue, why they were wanting me to put this oxygen mask. I knew that they were about to do surgery because it was the operating room. It was very clear that that's what that was intended for. And they moved me, off of the gurney over onto the operating room table. And, as I'm lying there and I'm just basically looking up at the bright shining light that they kind of put down on you. And I remember, thinking, like, I'm not prepped for surgery. Like, I'm not ready for this. Like, they haven't done anything. They haven't cleaned me up. Like, I still had dried up blood all over me from, the ambush. So I knew that I wasn't clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember just thinking, all right, like, gosh, what's about to happen? Like, I'm not prepped for surgery. And I remember them putting that oxygen mask over my face, and then I just, for some reason, just started begging and pleading with them to please stop. Like, just please stop. And, I don't know what it was, but they did. They stopped. Took the oxygen mask off of me and moved me back onto the gurney and put me back upstairs. And they moved me around quite a bit. So I was in and out of rooms. At one point, I remember just being out in the open hallway, and there's certain things that you will never forget. And I know that I've come across even, Vietnam veterans who say that they still remember the smells and the sights and sounds that they heard, experienced. And I'm like, yeah, it's very, very true. Like, you will never forget some of the stuff that you kind of experienced. But one day, then he told me that they were going to put me in an ambulance and take me to an American checkpoint. Now, obviously, at this point, I'm not trusting him. Like, I wanted to believe it. I really, really did. Like, I just wanted the help. I wanted the medical help, I guess. And I needed it. I needed the help because with every day, I could feel that I was slowly starting to fade. Because at this point they had already gave me, I think they said 3 blood transfusions is what the Iraqis had told the Americans, is that they gave me 3 blood transfusions to kind of keep me going. But I wasn't fed. I didn't receive any kind of food or water for the entire captivity. So I knew that I was slowly starting to kind of give up, to put it nicely. Like, I just knew that I could only hold out and persevere for so long. But I did. I mean, I kept it going by just, thinking to myself, I got to do this. I got to keep, but I wanted to see that American checkpoint so bad. And unfortunately, we never made it to an American checkpoint. They did end up taking me to the kind of outskirts of town, or what I was told was the outskirts of town, where the electricity had already been shut off. And they put me inside of this abandoned building. And, I went in there, and at first the Iraqis were with me. So even though they were our enemies, I kind of looked at those 2 Iraqis that kind of followed me and, moved me from place to place as, I don't know, I don't want to say protectors, but they were essentially kind of protectors at that point. But when they left me and just put me inside of that building and then left, like, I was like, oh, like, because it became very eerie. Like, there were no sounds. Like, I was listening and hoping for, I guess any kind of kids playing, even because I knew if there was kids around that maybe there would be women. And then, like, I guess you just always kind of think of like the positives, the being optimistic. But so I was just thinking, like, gosh, if I could hear, a dog or I don't know, a donkey, like some kind of life going on. But so being there and then, watching the sun go up, sun go down, and just being alone and not knowing was the worst feeling because I just didn't know what was happening on the outside. I didn't know what was, who was sneaking into that building during night. Like, but with it just being so quiet And usually like people are like, oh, I just want 5 minutes of alone time, peace and quiet. And I'm like, oh, like that was the scariest part for me because
Yeah.
it was just, it was an eerie, like I know I keep saying that word, but it was just an eerie feeling of uneasiness. Like you're, because you stayed on edge the whole time, you, me, whatever. Yeah, I stayed on edge because I didn't want to fall asleep. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
didn't want to be caught off guard. I wanted to, try to stay awake as long as I could. So even with them taking me down to the operating room, and them basically telling me that they were going to amputate my leg, at that point is when I was like, oh, I can't fall asleep. Like I'm afraid of what they're going to do to me. But then,
Yeah.
being transported out into, I guess not a hospital environment, like then it was like, oh, like it was scary. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I was scared. I didn't
Yeah.
know what to expect. I didn't know, like, honestly considered to myself, I was like, all right, I've got kind of two options. I can scream and make as much noise as I can in hopes that, there would be some American out there that would hear, English kind of voice screaming, or I could lay there in silence because my fear was that, if I made any kind of noise, that would attract the Fedayeen or the militiamen. And those were the hands that I did not want to be in. So
Yeah.
I did. I laid there in silence and just kind of, again, just kind of hoped and prayed that, everything would turn out all right. And it did. They came back, they got me, they took me back to the hospital. And then, on April 1st is when, they were able to kind of come in and rescue me.
So what was the reason why they moved you to that building? Do you know?
I don't know. I think one, it was, again, they said that they were taking me to an American checkpoint. I don't know if that story is true or not. It was told that that's what was occurring. So I definitely want to believe that that was their intentions. So I don't know if it was just kind of a detour, like now that, that didn't occur. So what do they do with me, for their safety,
Yeah.
so that they don't get caught, with the American POW. I really, I don't know. To me, I mean, there were so many unanswered questions that I had that I was not getting any kind of, again, any kind of information
Yeah.
about. I asked about certain things of what happened to this and this while I was in captivity, and I never got any answers, and I'm okay with that because I look at it now and like, what I mean, it's been 21 years. I would love to know what all occurred with Lori, what were this, but it's just one of those things that it is what it is at this point. I mean, you kind of have to just say, all right, and accept it, and you go on. And if I find out answers that I've had questions to, then I do. And if not, then it's not meant
Well,
for me to be known.
it was obvious. I mean, there was too many things that happened in this story that um, realistically shouldn't have happened to
Yeah.
say that there's no higher power that was looking out for you. We can go back to, like you said, they pulled you out of the vehicle
Mhm.
and then they started beating you.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're in a hospital.
Mhm.
What provoked the let's not beat her anymore, let's take her to the hospital? I mean, okay, so maybe that's coincidence. Maybe we can say, well, they wanted to maybe keep you alive for a bartering or trading a method, and somebody higher ranking came in and stopped the beating because he thought of bigger picture stuff. Okay, I get that. But then here we are now. What made those doctors stop?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they were under pressure to treat you to an exact method. You weren't obviously given food, so you weren't given the highest standards of care. And I'm sure that was politely asked by the Iraqi military that was there. So, I mean, I'm sure those doctors felt like, look, if I do the wrong thing here, I'm dead too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, of it, especially in that very early, stages again of war, because again, we have to remember this is 3 days that war just began. So war started March 20th. We were ambushed on March 23rd. So very early into the war that this all occurred. And, I don't know. I mean, obviously Iraq, let's be honest, it's a country that's used to seeing fighting. Obviously, it's nothing new to them, but I don't know. I mean, we've asked these questions too, why did they spare me? Why did I get to come home and my comrades didn't? So there were so many questions, especially when there were, just 5 of us in that vehicle alone, and I was the only survivor that they chose to save. Like I don't know. I mean, there's questions that I'll probably never know the answer to, but like you said, it's I don't know. At this point, I've accepted that I was given another opportunity, and that's kind of how I've been looking at it. Is like you kind of just have to be like, okay, like at this point, you were meant to survive. You were meant to come home. I was meant to help Lori's children. I was meant to be in the position that I am today, helping veterans and, being a school teacher. So it's all these things that now I look at it and I'm like, all right, maybe it was for a reason, but what that'll be, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever find out exactly, but I know that, I know that I'm here for a reason. And, I just want to take a second because I know we're kind of nearing the end, but I do want to say that, I want to go over my injuries just so people kind of get the idea, because they look at me now and they're like, oh, like she's fine. She's good. Look at her. Like she looks fine, but I'm no different than any other, military person that comes home. I have a bad habit of saying soldier, and then I got to realize that not all of us were soldiers.
No, we weren't. No,
that's just
all right.
That's an army thing. Like I'm just used to saying soldier, so then I have to correct myself all the time. I'm like, listen, not all of us were soldiers. But yeah, so the back was broken at the 4th and 5th lumbar. The arm was snapped. My head, I have, I still have the big scar that runs up it, but I had a head laceration, a couple cracked ribs. So in the arm, they did go ahead and put a rod there. They put a cage in the back. My lower left leg, they placed a rod in there, as well as the femur. So the femur is the one that the Iraqis were going to amputate. So they took me to the operating room to amputate my left femur. But what I didn't know at the time, I guess, is that they had already surgically removed my femur when I was still in the unconscious state. So I did not know that even occurred. Wow. So they took out my femur and they replaced it with a 1940s era rod. And yes, the rod is in existence. So we were able to verify that once, obviously they went in the Americans went in, they removed it and placed it with but the rod that they put in was 1940s era, and it was too long for my leg. I mean, I'm short. I'm only 5'3". But the rod that they put in was too long. But the big thing about that was that it was unsterilized. So once that had occurred, well, obviously my body then was starting to fight it, which is one of the reasons that we were being told that they were going to amputate, was the infection that set throughout the leg and then through my body. So to them, the best thing to do instead of taking the rod back out was going to be just amputate the leg altogether. So thankfully, they did not do that. And then once I got to Germany, they were able to replace it, put a nice sterilized, clean rod. But my foot was also lodged underneath of the passenger seat during the ambush. So when the Iraqis came around to get me out of the vehicle, they just jerked me out and ended up snapping my foot sideways. And basically ended up crushing and breaking the entire foot. So I have actually just recently had my 8th operation on it. And unfortunately, this one did not work either. So I'll be going probably this winter when things kind of slow down for me a little bit so that I can have the 9th operation on it, which I'm not looking forward to. But obviously, that's one of the things that you have to do, because as you get older, your gait changes, your weight changes.
Yep.
So I'm definitely not the 76 pounds that I was when I was rescued, again, because I didn't receive any kind of food or water. Obviously I was malnourished. But I guess more so just the trauma side of it, that your body kind of shuts down. So it goes into that kind of protective mode. So that's also what was occurring with me, is that I was shutting down quick. So they got me out of there, took me to Walter Reed, and was able to kind of bring me back to life and health. And it has taken, obviously the 21 years. I'm still in physical therapy, and that's what people don't realize. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still in physical therapy. And like, it's been 21 years of constant physical therapy. This is not like, take a year or two off. No, it's been literally 21 years of straight physical therapy, every single week. But I have to do it because of the back. And then obviously with the foot still being messed up, it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of, again, your gait changes as you get older. And that's what occurred with me is, as things started to change with me, it also affected, the feet, the knees, the hips, the back. Getting older is a lot of fun. Said no one. So again, and I don't tell people about all my injuries to kind of make them feel sorry for me or sympathy or, any of that, because I'm no, listen, I'm past that point. I tell it mainly because, well, it happened. And 2, I have came out of it and I've kept persevering. I've not let too many things get me down. Like I said in the beginning, one of the most hurtful things was obviously the stories that kind of came about after I got home. But even after, such a certain a time frame, then you're like, you know what, I'm too old to worry about this kind of stuff. I need to, focus on my daughter, who is now 17 and, going into her senior year. Like, so to
Yeah,
me, that stuff is more important now than
absolutely.
worrying about, um, what occurred or what I shoulda, coulda, would have done 21 years ago. As they say, you got to kind of continue living. And that is what I've done. And it's extremely hard because, as you guys know, I don't care who it is, whether it's a family member, whether it's your best friend that you lose, or, someone that you've lost in the military. I don't care who it is. If you were close to that person, like, it affects you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And it stays with you for decades. This is not something like you're like, oh, well,
Yep.
see you later. No, I mean, it sticks with you, and it's hard, and it's a struggle every single day to kind of get over that hurdle of what you should be doing versus, wanting to do, which is stay in bed and cry. Like,
Yeah.
you got to pick yourself up. You got to, be there for your kids, and, eventually one day grandkids, or, you understand what I'm trying to say, that it's just
Right.
one of these things that you can't just live in the past. You have to keep going. And for me, that's what I chose to do. And it was absolutely, a struggle. It was obstacles every single day that I had to overcome. But I don't know. I mean, you do it, and you kind of just take on that role of, here I am. What else can I conquer today?
Yeah. And I want to say, I watched a lot of your interviews
Yeah.
um, that you gave, and I can't stress how professional you were. You portrayed what professionalism is.
Thank you.
And one of the coolest things that I think that you did, um, and this kind of goes back to was talking about Lori and her goal
Yeah.
to have a house. You went on. They had you on Extreme Home Makeover, and people could have used your situation to bring themselves riches and nice houses and all that stuff. You went on that show and you fulfilled her dreams.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. There was some challenges with this because of the property and the land and the reservation and all the things that went along with it. But I'm going to tell you, I watched Extreme Home Makeover faithfully, and your episode was by far the best episode.
Oh,
And
thank you.
it's because it hit home with me. It was soldiers taking care of soldiers, and my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
If everybody could have that kind of professionalism and that, our veteran community would be amazing. And
Thank you.
that's what you're bringing to it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely hard to do. Um, Mentally, I guess, hard to do.
Mhm.
I knew it was the right thing to do. Like, I knew that, nominating her was absolutely 100% the right thing to do. Because that was one of the things that she had talked about, was
Yeah.
making sure that she had a home for her family.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, it was just the right thing to do. It really, truly, and I just followed my heart with it. I knew that it was something that, if the roles were reversed, she would have done the exact same thing. She would have done,
100%.
I mean, no hesitation about it. She would have 100% done the exact same thing.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it was hard mentally to be on there. And like you were saying, so they initially came from Hopi Reservation, um, but you cannot build on Hopi Reservation. So her family, well, I guess the show had to then take and build a home for them down in Flagstaff. So, and people didn't realize that too. They were like, but she's being taken away from her reservation. Yes and no. Because obviously her family was still close enough to each other. But allowing them to go from the little trailer that she had grown up in and that her kids were being raised in, to now having a home where they could all live together, was one of the most beautiful things about it. So yes, they did not get the home on reservation like they had intended. But now, I mean, and they still live in the home. There was a bunch of reports, and of course, people were trying to say that, oh, they sold the house. No, they did not. Her mom and the kids still live in that house to this day. So it's a beautiful home still. They still have, the room dedicated to Lori. I mean, everything about it is essentially how it was when Ty Pennington kind of created it for the family. So, I mean, obviously there's a few things that they've made changes to, but for the most part, like, it's still the exact same home.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
And I don't know. I guess I resonated to your story. When I went through BNOC, I'm horrible with names, but I can't remember his name, but the welder that was also captured from the convoy. I met him, and talking with him and hearing his story was amazing as well.
Yes.
And I think just a lot of people did not realize that they weren't watching what was happening, that the press was trying to portray. There was another story to this. This was a story about a soldiers, not Marines.
Shut up. I'm gonna go eat a crayon.
Not Marines this time, but yeah. So along with myself, so again, I was held separately, and then there were 5 others, and I don't want to say others because that sounds horrible, but there were 5 other soldiers from my unit, because obviously they've got name, they got faces, they are there as well. But yeah, there were the 5 others from my unit that thankfully, let's be honest, got to be together. They stayed together. They had each other to kind of rely on. Some of the stories, hilarious, by the way, of the things that group got themselves into. But again, thankfully we can look back now and we can all laugh about it because it turned out okay. But again, they were just trying to do what they had to do to survive too. And sometimes that meant having a little bit of humor and doing what they could. But absolutely. So if people aren't familiar with the story, I'm telling you, it was absolutely wonderful. So they were then put together, or 2 helicopters, pilots. Their helicopter also went down. So the 5 of them were then joined by the 2 helicopter pilots. So they were called the 7 Nightingales. So if you want to look up some interesting, fun, but also, serious stories, the 7 Nightingales from 2003 were also very interesting, very great stories that kind of came about that. And again, they're all doing absolutely wonderful. They're, good people to have.
Yep, I completely agree. Well, I know you're on the East Coast, and we're keeping you up late.
East Coast.
East Coast.
Those were his broken crowns.
Oh, that's my broken. Gosh, shut up.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's beginning.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give you that opportunity to tell everybody where they can buy your book. I will also make sure all the links and everything get put out here. I know we live stream, but we'll get them out there as well. Man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, no. Thank you. I mean, obviously this was absolutely wonderful. And as always, it's good to see Brandon there.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. No, I mean, honestly, it's always good to kind of tell my story, but not so, I don't know. To me, it's not the importance of telling my story. It's about keeping the memories of the ones that we lost, keeping them alive. And, if we can crack a few jokes and have some fun, like, that we have here in a very serious conversation, it's always nice to be able to just kind of smile. And like you said, even if it's just for a second where you're like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I mean, I might be broken like everybody else that has come home, but I'm okay.
Even broken crayons can still color.
That's right. And we sure do.
Shut up, Donald. You say that?
That was so cheesy.
I hate you.
But you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
I gotta shut up.
Does the broken one still have the wrapper on?
No, because I ate the wrapper. Jessica, I always say this when I talk to you, but it's true that we walk amongst giants. But there's only one that I call my friend, and this giant's 5'3", and that's you. So
thank you.
Thank you. Make a little joke about it, you're here because Marines need heroes. So thank you, not only for what you went through, but most importantly, your friendship. I value it a lot and enjoy the limited time that we get to spend together. So thank you so much for coming on my buddy's show. Yes. I appreciate it. This makes a great last show, dude.
Yep, I agree. And what he really meant to say was Marines need elementary school teachers. So
that too. So yep, I do. I did go back to, like you said, I'm a school teacher now. So I did go back. I got my degree because that was something that I always wanted to do. So here I am. I get to work with veterans every single day, and also kids when school is in session. And, I don't know, it's just sometimes, even though you take that broken road to get to where you are, it always seems to kind of be okay. It'll be okay.
I'm a firm believer that we're all put on a path eventually of where we're supposed to be. And we can't control the things that we find on that path till we get there. Yeah. I had a guest on that was a medium, and she said,
I'm an extra large.
And she said that she said some things that just really drove it home to me, was the fact that we decide our paths and what lessons we need to learn before we're even put into a human body. And, you keep doing that until you learn all the lessons that you need to learn.
You do.
And I think that's exactly why once you get on that path that you're now supposed to be, that's when you find true peace. If you're on the wrong path, but you're doing what you've always thought, this is my dream, I want to do this. For me, it was owning my own business. But I can tell you, I'm not as happy when I own my own business as I am now. And that tells me that was not the path for me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Everything, I know it's so stale, but everything happens for a reason. And, the benefits that veterans are getting now from hearing your story and learning your story, man.
And my path led me to this douche.
And to me.
Not everybody wins, man.
I get it.
That was cruel.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. This is my hero.
I
got you.
agree. I agree.
Oh, and I got to show you this. I still keep it on me at all times.
Which,
Oh,
that is really cool.
You
Yep.
do.
It's always in my pocket.
You do. I've yet to get mine set up, but my dog is being crazy. I have yet to get all my challenge coins set up over the past, but I mean, I have a large collection.
I believe
and
it.
I'm
I
one of
believe
these
it too.
people that I have not figured out how I want to display them all. Because obviously they make like the wall mounts, they have like the tables. I don't know. I haven't figured out how to kind of display all of mine yet. And I have a great, very cool collection of mine that
I bet you do. I bet you do.
You don't want to go to a bar fight with me because I will probably whip out one of the highest ones that you've seen.
Right.
You would not have to go to that extent with the collection I have. Right? I think the best I could do is General Petraeus. That was probably the highest coin I got.
See, that's pretty good though. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I would just rate you a Jessica Lynch.
I can't.
Jessica Lynch. Don't do a Jessica Lynch coin. It will not win you anything.
All right. Well, I'm gonna put you in the. I'm gonna put you in the.
Wait, before we go, your hats are freaking amazing.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
I'm gonna get a hat.
Well, we're waiting for the so we had kind of I want to say kind of a back order, like that we can't get the camouflage ones in. Those are the ones that I'm waiting for. Because the two that we got right now are the women, so they have like the ponytail holder. But really we're waiting for those camouflage ones to and we those are the ones that unfortunately he's like they're not coming in yet. So I keep one to him. I'm like, come on, we need those men's hats so we can get them out to people. But
I'm a man and I like hats.
Same.
I just like hats. I can't say. I don't know if I'm a man or not. I don't even know what that definition is anymore.
Can we not? Because I don't. Anyway, Jessica, where can people find you?
Okay, so the easiest way is to my website, and that's as simple as powjessicalynch.com. That's the easiest way that we can put it out there, and then from there you'll be able to kind of link up to any of my social media accounts. But yeah, the powjessicalynch.com, easiest one that we could kind of come up with.
And we'll make sure we got all the links for you. Yeah. I'm gonna put you in the green real quick, and we'll throw the exit video, and I'll be right with you.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks.
So, yes.
I hate you.
This is my farewell.
I hate you.
I know.
Go ahead.
But look, great things are coming from the nonprofit.
From the nonprofit.
I'm now going to have more time to work on the radio station and with this guy.
Look at me. I was in the orange.
So, don't forget to reach out.
Saturday.
Yes. Saturday, Rolla, Missouri.
Yep.
Hero Stock. Nashville, August 13th.
August 13th.
Nebraska, Ashland, Nebraska.
I'm not going to Nebraska.
I'm going.
Are you? Then I'm going to Nebraska.
All right. September 7th.
Yes.
September 7th. So make sure y'all support, man. It's free. If you're a veteran or a first responder, you're going to have a great time, I promise.
Veteran Voice Radio.
Y'all take care. And
veteransvoiceradio.com.
Veteranvoiceradio.com. And for the last time, don't let the day kick your ass. Kick the day's ass.
Damn right.